The new My Hero Academia chapter has finally revealed the quirk of the second use of One For All, the final quirk of One For All. If you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video, let's go! The new My Hero Academia chapter 368 starts seconds after the end of the last chapter when Deku asks All For One if Shigaraki is still alive. We explain that it's most likely because Deku is planning to save Shigaraki in the shared realm of One For All and All For One, since this is the only place where Shigaraki is still himself and where his deepest desire can be revealed, namely the desire to be saved, which he has held on to since he was a child, and Deku has noticed this. Now Deku probably wants to become the hero Shigaraki has been waiting for all these years. To this, All For One replies that Shigaraki is no more because they have merged. And somehow, probably because he has lived longer, All For One's personality is more present than Shigaraki's, and thus he has the greatest control of all. He is the dominant person in this transformation, which means that even if he were to achieve the final transformation into the ultimate demon lord, All For One will still be in control, while Shigaraki and also Tenko Shimura will slowly disappear. Mirio intervenes and says that All For One reacted very strangely to something he said, as if he were possessed by an angry child, which is why he believes that it is not yet a perfect fusion and that it is indeed still very unstable. Mirio was referring to the moment when Tenko Shimura took control for a brief moment when confronted with the fact that he had no friends. His childlike personality felt the need to justify himself, and so Tenko Shimura woke up for a brief moment. The fact that All For One definitely knows this and deliberately lies to hide the fact that they are unstable shows that All For One is afraid of this. Otherwise, there would be no reason to pretend that Shigaraki is no longer there, even though it has been made quite clear that Shigaraki is indeed still alive. He woke up for a brief moment a few chapters ago when he was about to finally destroy Bakugo, and All For One obviously noticed that, and yet he still lies. Every lie that came from All For One is a sign of weakness. This means that All For One is not as cool-headed at the moment as he pretends to be. At the same moment, Nana sees Kodoro on Shigaraki's arm with both of them looking deeply into each other's eyes, which allowed Nana to confirm that Shigaraki is still inside. Almost as if Shigaraki or his subconscious or maybe even Tenko Shimura could communicate with Nana through Kotoro's manifestation without saying a word. For simplicity, we will refer to them as All For One when we know he's in control, and as Shigaraki when we know that Tamura is in control, or if we just talk about one of them specifically. Anyway, then finally the fight begins. All For One jumps, and that simple jump makes the entire flying UA shake. This shows how insanely strong he is physically. All For One says their conversation is over because he's going to steal One For All now. He hits Deku with a smash, but Deku seems unfazed by it. He then ties up one of his arms with a combination of Fajin and Black Whip, which he calls Black Chain. He uses this technique to throw All For One, but All For One has no problems to get free either. And so the fight goes on. At this moment, the second user appears behind Deku and says that he has to end it quickly if he wants to use his quirk. And this is what we have been waiting for all this time. Finally, the quirk of the second user is revealed. The second user of One For All tells Deku that if he doesn't manage to defeat All For One in the next 5 minutes, that then the world is doomed. The interesting thing about this is that he didn't say exactly why the world will end. Is it because Deku can only defeat All For One if he uses that ability, and so if he can defeat him within 5 minutes, because maybe that's the limit to which Deku can use the second user's ability of One For All, then no one will ever be able to defeat All For One, resulting in All For One winning and the world being doomed? Or does it have something to do with the quirk itself, messing with the physics of the world, or perhaps Deku's body? Remember when Deku first tried to use the quirk of the second use of One For All when he tried to move faster? That's when we suspected it might have something to do with speed. If this ability wasn't dangerous, the second use of One For All wouldn't have forbidden Deku to use it. He told him to use this quirk only as a last resort when there were no other options left, suggesting that the use itself is dangerous either to Deku or the world. Again, there are several ways we can interpret this statement, for example that the ability can only be used for 5 minutes. So if Deku uses it now, he won't be able to use it against All For One. Or maybe it will destroy Deku's body if this is some kind of self-destruction process that Deku is going through, where he will die in 5 minutes, which is why it is important that Deku manages to defeat All For One in the next 5 minutes. Because maybe Deku's already about to die. Maybe his cells are dissolving or whatever could cause this ability. But honestly, I don't think Deku would use such a quirk without giving one for all to another person first. So I doubt this possibility. I give the mic to my partner Yami. He will continue this My Hero Academia chapter review. Have fun.
Deku then takes a stance, holding his own right hand and says, "The second's transmission." At first, it looks like the name of the quirk is transmission because that's how Deku uses the 0 for 1 quirks. He first calls out the user's number and then the name of the quirk. So, in this example, the name would be transmission. However, the second user uses a different name a bit later in this chapter. We'll talk about that in a moment. Normally, My Hero Academia quirks are based on physics, so transmission is probably no exception. So let's take a closer look at transmission in physics and try to understand what this quirk actually does. Maybe we'll find something interesting. So basically, when electromagnetic waves arrive at the boundary of materials, they are reflected, absorbed, or transmitted. When the electromagnetic waves pass through the material, it is called transmission. Transmission is therefore the passage of electromagnetic radiation through a medium. I'm obviously no physics professor, but I'm pretty sure that's not what's happening in My Hero Academia right now. So maybe there's another form of transmission that has nothing to do with electromagnetic waves, but has something to do with passing through a material or something similar. Maybe something that has to do with teleportation. But as mentioned before, it's not quite clear whether the quirk of the second user of One for All is really called transmission or rather shifting gears. This is because although Deku called the quirk transmission, the second user called it shifting speed or shifting gears. When the second user mentioned this, Horikoshi used the Japanese quotation marks, which usually shows the correct name of a quirk. So it looks like Deku's quirk is called shifting gears, while transmission is a technique that Deku used. This could be a reference to the physical transmission of electromagnetic waves. For example, if we assume that Deku has become so fast that he can pass through materials or something on those lines. The moment Deku uses this technique, All for One is suddenly hit out of nowhere. He's thrown upwards faster than the sound of the impact. He's very confused and does not understand where this attack came from. The second user confirms that his quirk is much stronger than when he used it, and that it's a quirk that changes the speed of the hit target. So theoretically, he could make himself go faster, and also the impact on his opponent, which is why the strike was faster than the sound of the impact itself. Deku, now standing next to All for One, sets off a sequence of 3 punches: second, third, and first. These are the 3 words that Deku uses. He then pops up behind All for One and prepares to deliver the final blow at overdrive speed. The second user of One for All closes his speech by saying that the current Izuku Midoriya can use 120%. Yoichi then comes out and says, "Bro, let's just call it a day." And then Deku hits his Detroit Smash. End of the chapter. There's not much to say about this week's chapter. The quirk of the second user of One for All is a bit confusing, but I'm sure we'll get used to it the more Deku uses this quirk. The basic idea is that Deku performs an attack with a certain number of speed and 1 word. The numbers are speed 2, speed 3, speed 4, speed 5, and the corresponding words are second, third, top, and overdrive. With these combinations, he can use different techniques like transmission, where the general ability of this quirk is to change the speed of the target. That's pretty much all we know about this quirk so far, at least when it comes to the leaks. The official translation will definitely give us more clarity. Of course, this is not the end of My Hero Academia. We are still waiting for the ultimate Demon Lord awakening. That's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.